All right, today we're jumping into a really profound talk by a Zen master. And honestly, it completely flips the script on how most of us think about finding truth. It sounds so simple, but it's one of those things that could genuinely change the way you see, well, everything.
So let's start with a big question. Can knowledge actually get in the way of understanding? I mean, think about it. What if our endless search for more information, more books, more theories, more data, isn't actually getting us any closer to reality? What if, in a weird way, it's actually building a wall between us and the very thing we're looking for? So here's how we're going to break this down. First up, we'll dive into what's called the trap of knowing. Then we'll get to the absolute heart of this whole teaching. When hungry, eat. After that, we'll talk about why it's so important not to go it alone on this path. And finally, we're going to wrestle with this really fascinating idea of a truth beyond words. Okay, let's get right into it with section 1, the trap of knowing. We're all taught that the path to wisdom is paved with books, with learning, with information. But this Zen master has a warning for us. That very path can sometimes be a massive detour. And you can see the contrast right here. On one hand, you've got book learning. Now, without any real insight, it can just turn us into what's called an asura, which in Buddhist mythology is this kind of demigod who's just constantly fighting, always arguing, always competing over who's right. But then you look at true awakening, or direct insight, and how is it described? It's without trouble. It's simple. It's unburdened by all that mental conflict. And this quote just hits you, right? Even if you understand all the scriptures, you are not equal to one unlearned monk who has awakened. This just drives the whole point home. It's not about how much you know. It's about the quality of how you see. One single moment of genuine, clear insight is worth way more than a whole library full of theories. Realization completely trumps intellect.
So, if burying yourself in books can be a trap, then what's the alternative? Well, the answer is so beautiful and almost shockingly simple. And it is the absolute core of this entire teaching. The big idea here is that we're always looking for some hidden secret, right? Some complicated technique that's going to unlock everything for us. But the truth is, the path is right here. It's in our most ordinary, everyday lives. We miss it because we're too busy looking for something else, something bigger, something more spiritual. And this is it. This isn't a call to be lazy or to just be simplistic. Not at all. It's a call to be completely direct. It's about closing that gap between what you're doing and your awareness of it. Just eat. Just sleep. Do the thing that is right in front of you, but do it with your whole being. So what this really boils down to is dropping that second layer of stuff we're always adding on top of reality. That layer of thought, of judgment, of the running commentary that's always going on in our heads. It's about tasting your food without the thought, I am now tasting my food. And just like the saying goes, the foolish person will laugh at how simple this sounds, but the wise person, they'll get it. They'll understand just how profound it is.
Now, here's the catch. While the teaching itself is incredibly direct, actually living it, well, that's another story. It's incredibly difficult because our habits of thinking, that mental chatter, it's just so strong. And that's exactly why having a real guide is so, so important.
I mean, look at the story of the great Zen master Linji. It's the perfect example. The guy practiced diligently for 3 whole years, but he never asked the really big, fundamental question. So someone had to push him to do it. And when he finally asked, his master hit him. And this happened 3 times. He was so confused, he just decided to leave. But then, on the road, another teacher said just one simple thing to him, and boom, he awakened. Instantly. He needed that external shock, that push to break through his own walls. And finding a guide who can do that for you? It's not easy. The text compares it to finding an udambara flower, this legendary plant that's said to bloom only once every 3,000 years. I mean, think about that. That's how rare, how incredibly precious that kind of guidance really is. Okay, so this brings us to our final and probably most mind-bending section. What even is this truth that we're supposed to realize directly? I mean, if you can't find it in books and you can't really explain it with words, then what on earth are we even talking about? Well, this ultimate reality, you can call it the Tao, the truth, whatever you want, it's not an object. It's not something your senses can pick up or your mind can slap a label on. Trying to define it is like trying to grab a fistful of water. The moment you close your hand, it's gone. And here is the most crucial insight of all. This truth, it's not something you need to go out and find. It isn't something you lack. It is already fully present, right here, right now. The only reason we don't experience it is because our own views, our own ideas about how the world works, they create a barrier. We're looking through our concepts instead of just looking. Now, this gets a little subtle, but stick with me because it's really cool. We often hear spiritual talk about oneness. But from this perspective, even calling reality one is a trap, because that makes it a thing. Instead, the concept used is not two. It's such a clever way to put it. It doesn't say reality is one, it just says it's not separate. It's pointing to a reality where all the lines we draw between me and you, this and that, they just don't actually exist.
So, to describe what an awakened mind is like, this really striking metaphor is used. The ocean will naturally push out anything that doesn't belong. It won't hold on to a dead body, it just lets it go. And in the same way, a truly free mind doesn't cling to anything, not to old ideas, not to opinions, not even to a fixed idea of who it is. It's just constantly fresh, constantly open, and totally alive.
And so we're left with this beautiful paradox. We seek and we search, but the very act of seeking implies that something is missing. This whole teaching suggests that the truth is what's already here, right in front of us, waiting for us to simply stop and see. Which leaves us with one final, very important question. What are you really seeking?